that were here earlier. There's a few questions left over from minerals. So the first question I think is relevant to bad minerals. Your question is?
A lot of friends of mine are taking a lot of Prilosec.
Okay. What do I think about Prilosec? I try not to, but a lot of people take it, so I can't ignore it.
Right.
People take Prilosec when they do not make enough stomach acids. And the stomach is not empty because the pH did not drop low enough to release the contents to be fed to the small intestine for bacterial action. So when food stays in your stomach too long, the acids float to the top, and you end up getting a lot of heartburn when you lay down. And they go, oh, you're going to get Bartlett's esophagus because the cells are transforming into a different cell from the acid that is getting on there, and it's precancerous. So people take Prilosec to force food out of their stomach. Prilosec is now linked with kidney failure and disease. And if you read the label, it says this should not be taken more than 4 weeks. And some people take it for 4 years or maybe 2 decades. That's a real bad deal. When you get them healthy and they get off the Prilosec and you use minerals like selenium, their biggest complaint is they now have to go to the barber again because their hair's growing. And all I say is, well, you're not starving anymore. Okay, so Prilosec is, you know, it's a temporary stopgap effort from a medical doctor. But if you read the instruction, it only says 4 weeks. What is the deadly part of Prilosec? It runs all the magnesium out of your body. That's where you run into kidney failure and kidney problems. It's just like a diuretic. And the other big diuretic I see is hydrochlorothiazide. And I see people coming in that are dying from hydrochlorothiazide. But I take potassium and I go, well, that's good. But I says hydrochlorothiazide is running all the magnesium out of your body, and you're not able to absorb, utilize calcium, and it's making your osteoporosis work, and you can't sleep, and you can't wake up, and you have no energy. And so everybody that's on hydrochlorothiazide needs to be taking a lot of extra magnesium. Anybody on Prilosec needs to take a lot of magnesium for a lot of months to build themselves back up. And the dosages on magnesium would be bowel tolerance. There's 8 forms of magnesium. Some of them give you real loose bowels really quick. Other ones, you don't get it quite so quick, but you can always use the bowel tolerance as an indicator. And probably the new kid on the block is magnesium thioridine. That's brain specific. And people can take a lot of that stuff and it doesn't seem to mess their bowels up at all.
What's the name of that?
Magnesium thioridine, or MAG-T. It's brain specific. Thioridine in the book Minerals for the Genetic Code is tied to fluoride and potassium. And I believe that thioridine allows your body to get rid of fluorine easier if you have the MAG-T present. But fluoride gets out of the body also with selenium and boron. So some people are new, and this is going to be broadcasted. So I'm going to start off with the element song to get everybody familiar with all the words that you forgot from your chemistry class.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, and magnesium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, protactinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and palladium. There's yttrium, and terbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and bismuth, chromium, lithium, beryllium, and barium. There's holmium, and helium, and hafnium, and erbium, and phosphorus, and francium, and fluorine, and terbium, and manganese, and argonium, molybdenum, and magnesium, dysprosium, and scandium, and cerium, and cesium, and lead, praseodymium, and platinum, plutonium, palladium, promethium, potassium, polonium, and tantalum, technetium, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium, and calcium, and chromium, and curium. There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, istinium, nobelium, and argon, and radium, and rhodium, and chlorine, carbon, cobalt, copper, tungsten, tin, and sodium. These are the only ones of which the news has come to Harvard. And there may be many others, but they haven't been discovered.
I think that's good. So the first lecture this morning was Minerals for the Genetic Code, and I had really spent half the night making sure I was well prepared. I had 150 slides, we made it to 30. And then the second one was minerals in the brain, and I have 150 slides, and I think we made it to 15. I hope I have enough slides for this talk. This one is bad minerals for health. Well, there is no good health for bad minerals. It was a typo because I'm dyslexic, and they print what I said on them. So I end up in the presence of a very sick man in an Amish depression center. And the people that run that are not medically trained, they're not homeopathy trained, they're not chiropractically trained, they're not nutritionally trained. They're just other Amish men that are doing good, and to them, Prozac is a vitamin. And the chief ingredient. Don't genetically modify your food and expect to get anything from it. It's not a good deal. Energy equals matter and light, and when you have a genetic sequence that converts to matter and light, and you vector viruses into this stuff, it changes the frequency. It changes how much light you're going to get. It changes the three-dimensional structure to the point that you may or may not be able to use it. And if you can't use it, it becomes poison. So I got myself fortunate enough to have my own lake in Canada. I was talking to a young lady who had just left the criminal justice system after 13 years, and she said she wants to work in fields in the woods because she actually went outside for once and loved it. And her father hunts about 5 miles from the lake that I own, so it was interesting to see somebody that knows where it is. I don't have Wi-Fi up there. I don't have TV up there. I got AM radio at night. There's nothing up there. So I read from 3:30 to 7 o'clock every day of the week. If I read it, I save it, because if I think I need to go back and look at it, I got it on record. I have a lot of people that have interest, and I read an article and I send it to them for your information. So when I go to write these books that I come out with, this is where I do it. And my friends don't like to go up there because all they do is sit and stare at this lake, and from 4 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, I sit and dabble on the computer and write books, and then from 3 in the afternoon till dark, I do things like paint the cottage or go fishing or something. When I do go fishing, we do like big fatty omega-3 plank like that. And this top doctor is from Florida, and the other doctor came in from Pennsylvania. And while we were there, we had fatty omega-3s every day. We never did manage to have any of these grass-fed critters. That is a moose and caribou that have a lake. I have a garden. I plant it every year, and I haven't ate anything. Because by the time I get up there in August, the moose have found it ahead of time, and they wiped it right out. And I can drive there, it takes 12, 14 hours, or I can fly and get there in about 4. So this is a 1948 airplane.
I was going to say, that's an old airplane.
Oh, it's one of the most prayed for airplanes in Michigan. You're going to Canada, we're having services. I say, look, that prop out there, it's a fan. It keeps me cool, because if it doesn't work, I sweat. And the worst thing I could do is land on a lake and have to walk 100 miles. Because up in Canada, all it is lakes. I mean, if you have wheels, where are you going to land? If you're in Canada, you've got floats. Well, it's easy to put these things down. You may not have enough runway to get off. But so the health food store that I maintain, it's one of the largest health food stores in Michigan. It's 3,000 square foot. Probably the largest health food store in half the state of Michigan. In the poorest part of Michigan, there's only maybe 2 counties that have less population and less of the cash flow. We're like maybe 12th poorest in the country. So it's, when I go to work, it's 2 stop signs. When I go home, there's none. The only way I could live there is to be a doctor. There's no way, because there's the unemployment rate's 25%. 95% of the children that grow up there move away. They go to college and never come back. 80% of the children in the grade school do not have the same parents living in the same house. 85% of the children qualify for federal assistance, so they're eating all the food that we can't ship to other countries. And trust me, I can't go in and do anything. I offer them free Redmond salt. Free. Tell me when you're running low, I'll drive it up and give it to the kids. They won't take it. They prefer garden food stuff with silico-aluminate in it. You can't touch the breakfast, which is just pure Cocoa Puffs and Rice Krispies and all the GMO-laden sugars and stuff. It's just frightful. Nothing I can do about it. I've tried my best. As a chiropractor, I make a living 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. actually going into rooms and moving bones. Wednesdays I do nutritional workups. And nutritional workups are, you have a tale that nobody else has figured it out. I try to be the stopgap to make sure we don't do things twice to figure out that you don't need to do it 3 times and it doesn't work. Most people that come in have no hair testing, so they have no idea what their mineral burdens are. And this is a heavy metal talk. And they have no idea what their stool samples are. And I see everything from people that just can't get energy to stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I'll take anything on that's basically still breathing and has the desire to live. Some people that are really sick, they don't, I know I'm older. You can't do it. They don't want to be helped because they're older and they know their time is up. Other people are like, I had a guy walk in, he says, these doctors are acting like I'm dead. And I said, what do you got? Stage 4B cancer of the pancreas? He goes, well, yeah. I go, well, let me see the report. I go, well, no wonder they're treating you dead. They all think you're going to be dead in a year. Well, why is that? I says, well, let's look at the statistics. There's a chance of 1 in 200 you'll be alive a year from today. So we do all the normal things, and the last MRI showed all the cancer was regressing and the tumor in the pancreas was shrinking. And 30 days after he started on all this stuff, his chronic diarrhea that he had for 10 years went away. It's like, well, there was the problem right there. It was a leaky gut. It was all these different things. And he's coming around. So you can do a lot. Mondays and Fridays, I do house calls to the Amish. And I travel quite a bit for lectures like this. The books, the first book we talked about this morning was Minerals for the Genetic Code, written by Chuck Walters and myself, produced by Acres. The second book Chuck and I wrote never got produced because Chuck passed on, and Acres is an animal conference. It's an animal magazine. They did not want to get into human health, and Chuck wasn't there to override. So that book got canned. I have a copy of it. I had 5 copies made, but it's almost an outdated reference book now because so much more new information has come out about tumor-suppressing genes. But out of the book on tumor-suppressing genes, I use gravity, magnetism, weak and strong electrical forces, and I came out with my 1-a-day mineral complex that I market around the world. Tomorrow, I'm going to be releasing minerals for acupuncture meridians. And this morning, the book on the brain, the genetics of innate, are all the chemicals, everything that was found in cerebrospinal fluid, and every gene associated with it was about 11,000 to 21,000 genes. That book will be available for download coming up December 15th. I got milk on there. I started a book on milk. I got a company called the A1A2 gene testing to try to get the morphine out of the milk, and I work with Organic Valley very heavily, so that may be the cleanest supply of milk in the country to have morphine-free products. You can go to big box stores and buy the bottles that says A2, but it doesn't say grass-fed, and it doesn't say organic. So I suppose that might be the answer. And then, yes, ma'am?
Milk has morphine in it?
Milk has laced with morphine. And if you see all the opioid epidemics, how many children did you have?
3.
Did you breastfeed?
Yep.
So when you breastfeed, you give them colostrum, and you give them morphine-laced milk for 3 months, and the morphine goes away. And you can breastfeed for 4 years, but they're all done getting the morphine. So what do farmers have to do? They have to freshen cows. So every time you freshen the cows, this is a new batch of morphine. Cows weigh 4 times as much as humans, so the morphine content is 4 times as much. So you've heard of milk allergies? This is the #1 allergy there is milk. Well, I'm lactose intolerant. No. In the lactose molecule is the morphine. So if you have these children that can't take dairy products, you knock them off dairy products for 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the severity, and then you go back and introduce A2 milk, and they will not react.
What's A2 milk?
A2 milk are cows. The herd has been screened, and they are the cows that produce morphine that your digestive tract cannot gain access to the morphine. A1 cows are the bad guys. That morphine is digestible, very easily digestible. You know, I don't sleep good. Well, go get a glass of milk. Work out. And it causes autistic behavior. It causes type 1 diabetes. It causes hardening of the arteries. They know what gene it turns on with massive mucus production. So you get a real bad scenario when your kid gets all snotty and an earache. It's like, oh, he must need antibiotics. Oh, here's your antibiotics. By the way, he's got a vaccine. And they kill all the gut bacteria, throw in a vaccine. There's no place for the vaccine to go. And you get this real bad cycle. So the morphine, so the A1 milk is like a bad thing, but the A2 milk, and Organic Valley is probably the best company in the United States that's coast to coast that you can get.
So if your kid is on mucosine and they drink milk all the time.
Get them off the milk. And they're addicted to it. They are addicted to it. You try to get them off, but they don't want it. They'll go crazy. If you withdraw them, suddenly you have a problem for 3 to 4 days. I mean, if you've got powdered milk in there, they'll eat it out of their hands because they're seeking out the 7-beta-casein morphine.
I had no idea.
The guy that wrote the book called The Devil in the Milk. I don't know if you ever heard of The Devil in the Milk. Tom Woodford. I read the book on an airplane going to Florida, and I got to Florida, and I said, I know a lot about genetics. I know a lot of people in the organic industry. I don't know anybody that would be able to get done what I got done, because I was able to, I called up the girl that runs my health food store. I says, find out what's going on with this A2 testing. Well, the only company that owned the rights to A2 milk was the A2 Milk Corporation of New Zealand. So you had to send all the hair there. And they were testing everybody because if you have their gene in your cow and the Supreme Court decided that you can own a gene, then they're going to tap you a penny a pound of milk. Every time you go to the barn, you're going to pay those people homage for owning that gene. So I protected all the farmers from that until the Supreme Court made a decision. And luckily, the decision was, you can't own a God-given gene. But if just because you can see it doesn't mean you can own it. But if you can tweak it, as in genetic modification, that's a man-made product that you can patent. So that kept everybody in the genetic modification game, and all the natural genes are just then natural genes. Yes, ma'am?
I'm just agreeing with you because I raise beef, and all of my cattle magazines are now really pushing A2 cows, especially the heritage A2 cows. So the only reason they would push that is if there's money there and the consumers are requesting it. So it's getting well known.
Well, absolutely. When everybody is testing to get rid of it, you want your dams and your sows to be all A2. Do you want to, every time cow comes through, do you want to spend the money to have it tested? No, you want to get a closed herd. No more testing. We got the genetic line down. There's no more morphine
But all
going
the
in.
cow ads, they're all.
Oh, well, they shifted that about 5 years ago. They all started off A2, 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 A1, then A1, A1, and everybody's buying the A2, A2. And in Australia, they were saying, well, these genes are associated with this type of cow, and this type of cow is this. Well, United States, yeah, we got a Heinz variety because of all the cows we've tested and what they claim, like say they'll say, well, cow group A should be all A2, they were all A1. And the black and whites that are supposed to be A1, 80% of them were A2, A2. So I get people calling up, not to knock any of my Amish friends, but they'll call up, but they want to have you say it's okay not to test. Well, I've got black and whites. I understand they're all A2. I said, now, why don't you just take a coin and go stand next to the cow and flip it 3 times? He says, what's that going to do? I said, it'll be just as much a guess as you're trying to get me. Because, you know, anybody that can talk them out of spending money and then feel good about it. So a cow's not a cow until it's tested. And then what do? Paul Detloff is the head vet. He's retiring now. He's not retired. When I first took this to him, he says, Richard, you just don't understand. I says, Paul, what don't I understand? He says, if you've got a girl that you're going to milk for 11 years and you're going to get 80 pounds a day out of her and she is your bread ticket, why would you want to eat it? And I said, Paul, if you fed that to your daughter and she become type 1 diabetic and you have to pay $200 a month for insulin, she has no ability to get a life insurance policy. 25 years are knocked off her life and you have to cook special meals. Would you like eating that steak or would you just keep it in a different amount and just what you got? He said, well, we got a tough road to go. Because we can't go out and say milk is bad. Because I lectured at one of their conferences, and boy, I got about hung from the roof. He said milk is bad. He says, no, he didn't. He says, milk with morphine is bad. Test the cows, get it out. So we had a 7-year project, and this is 7 years. This is 7 years ago that we started doing this. So milk is very interesting. You know, especially because now there's such a glut in milk. My buddy Ruben Stilfo was on Lancaster Ag, and he's had these nice conferences like this. I said, we going on? He said, no, milk prices down, there's no money. I'm answering the phone. He had 42 employees. There is such a glut in the market on the milk right now. The conventional farmer went from $13 down to $11 a unit, whatever they're paying for. The organic went from 30 to 28. I mean, to be an organic dairy farmer, you make absolutely twice as much money. And they're telling them, don't get any more cows because we're going to be cutting the belt back. Everybody wants fats and oils right now. What does milk have for fats? Milk has 1,273 different things in it. It has 900 different kinds of oils. That blew me away. Gosh, I wonder if I need. So when I go get my milk, because I go to an organic farm, I go into the bulk tank and I pour it and I take it out and I go grab my eggs. And any cow that didn't make the day is in the freezer. I grab my stuff. And when I get my gallon home, I got about this much in each jar. Well, that goes into my jar. That's what I like first, is to drink all that oil. And then I'm writing a book on boron, which turns out is the second most abundant mineral in the brain. Businesses, I got a chiropractic business, a health food store, a coffee shop, a gene testing, a beauty salon, and I'm selling bedding in my health food store. So people come in, Richard, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just have no idea what's wrong with me. This man has perished, and I got permission from his wife to show it off. This is what a gentleman looks like with the type of cancer you see on TV, the asbestos cancer, mesothelioma. That's what his hair looks like. And his job was a plumber. And they actually plumbed my house, and his dad was so old that they actually brought in the smelting pots and poured lead in the floors. And he thought nothing of standing around that fire having a cigarette while the lead warmed up. And when he was doing the plumbing, you know, when you got plastic, you put the purple stuff on. Well, the purple stuff is liquid fluoride. And sitting around and breathing that stuff meant nothing to him. Oh, my dad did it, my grandpa did it, you know. I can't breathe the air. He said, oh, you get used to it after a while. So he came in, and he said, I don't know if you can help me or not. I said, well, so he's dealing with the Dr. Sugarbaker, who's a mesothelioma surgeon / asbestos guy. And I said, well, do your hair. Well, I looked at this, and I thought, oh, my gosh. So I looked at the aluminum. That's not bad. I looked at the antimony, and it's right off the charts. So where would a plumber come into antimony? Well, they took the lead out of soldering pipes together. Well, what did they put in when they took the lead out? Antimony. So you take 2 pieces of copper plate, clean them up all really good, put your fluoride flux on there, heat it up, and touch this tin antimony, and it runs in there and it solidifies, so you connect 2 pipes, and his antimony was right through the roof because he did so much sweat soldering in closed areas and just inhaled the fumes from antimony. The arsenic is elevated. Where he lived, there was arsenic in the water. And that will give you cancer, but it doesn't necessarily give you mesothelioma. Yes, sir.
So we're drinking water that comes through pipes that were soldered with this antimony.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're probably touching it, breathing it, whatever.
Are we getting it?
How much are we getting compared to them, let's say?
All right. Bottled water is the biggest source of antimony because it's made in the plastic. And the longer water sits in a bottle, the more antimony you get. Antimony is 5 times as tough as arsenic, and it's in the parts per trillion. Now that's a very good question because the town I live in, they add some type of phosphorus to the water supply because if the toilet ever sticks, you go in, there's a big green sheen on the toilet because we have pipes that were touched with that lead many years ago. Not that they're like the Flint pipes where they were all lead. So all you can do is turn the water on and let it run a little bit so if any of it's built up. But we are talking parts per trillion. Not million, but trillion in the antimony. And I don't know how much of that gets in, because I've never cut a joint in half and see how much line's in. Now I've got hard water, which means it's really attracted and it builds up a slag and it protects it. I mean, my hard water is so bad, I've got filters at every place where hot water comes out because the slag's up and builds up and I can't even turn off the faucets and stuff. So this gentleman had some barium. I'm not quite sure where the barium, no beryllium, no bismuth. Well, cadmium, lead, and mercury. Cadmium is found in a lot of places. Primarily, the #1 spot would be cigarettes. That is like the biggest source of cadmium. #2, anybody that works with petroleum products is going to have some cadmium in their system. It's in the greases, it's in the oils. You know, you sit down with a farmer and say, oh yeah, I put on rubber gloves to change the oil. You know, they get underneath, they loosen the bolt up, the bolt drops down, that's hot oil, they put their hands in the oil, get a rag, wipe it off so they can put it back on. Nobody puts gloves on. Nobody thinks about all these little trace minerals and stuff that they get in, and over time it accumulates. And cadmium displaces zinc and causes big problems. It's a real big problem because the cadmium builds up in the pineal gland and it builds up in the prostate. And the prostate is where your body stores zinc. Just like the testicles will store selenium, magnesium, and sodium in the kidneys, and potassium in your liver, and the spleen does lithium. Zinc is in the prostate, so you're always worried about getting too much cadmium lodged into the prostate gland because it shuts down the way zinc works and it can swell and make you sick. Lead, it seems to be found everywhere. You can't go hardly any place without having lead. People that get cataracts in their 60s, and some people have maybe even had cataracts in here, the older you are, the more chances are you'll have cataracts because the lead was in what? Gasoline. And you know, a lot of people wash their hands with gas in the garage, or they ran lawnmowers, so they started up anything inside garages where there's trace amount of lead. So lead's been around a lot of places, and it's not hard to get. There's no one particular point that you get lead. It's just a bad deal. The town I live in makes electricity, and if you Google me and you put in Hillman School System, you'll see I fought to the highest level possible in the EPA, because across the street, virtually across the street, is a power plant that burns 21 acres of trees a day and 5,000 pounds of tires. And when I tested the school grounds for 6 of the primary minerals that come out, well, guess what? I found them. So the story is, my son's in 4th grade. This is how I stumbled on this. My son never made it out of 4th grade at this school because they have a science project. So I go on to the superintendent and I said, I'd like to go on the school grounds and I would just love to do some samples to see if that power plant is affecting us. And he said, nope, can't do it. Well, I don't want to argue. I'm a good politician. I understand the word no. He says, I suppose you could go in the ditches by the road. I can't keep you off the school grounds if you're in the ditch. I go, oh, you've got to worry about it. I ain't going to do the ditch. So I leave there and I go home and my son says, Dad, I got a science project. I said, you want to help? He looked through the back page. It says, test the school ground soil. Daddy Warbucks is right here with you. $150 a sample. We checked for 6 spots on the school ground, all around school ground. And a buddy of mine owns the trash company that hauls the ash away, so I could dip out of his truck. And so I had the source and I had the ground, and everywhere on the ground was a direct reflection of what was coming out of the stack and the ash leaving. So my son's science goes into science class, and it is the mineral breakdown of the power plant. Well, everybody's related that works at this place that employs 18 people. You know, how dare you do something like this? You know, it's just a science project. I mean, if you're worried about it, move. So we did it, took a lot of criticism. A friend of mine is Dr. Malcolm Fields. He's a 92-year-old neurosurgeon, and he has what's called the Fields Neurological Institute. I told him what was going on. He sent his crew up, and we offered free lead testing for anybody in the school, anybody in the community. Funny thing happened on the way back downstate. That car got into a real serious accident. We got all the blood results back, but we didn't know who they were. But we found blood in everybody. And the lady never worked again. Funny thing, things that happens. So we found out that there's a lot of lead that was coming out of tires. There's mercury in tires, barium is in tires. There's a lot of stuff. I would have probably moved, but I already had a lot of years invested into this town, and I live upwind. And I don't drink the water.
Also, if you burn coal, you probably get a lot of that too.
You get 1/4 of the mineral supply, minerals on Earth is in coal.
1/3.
1/3, yeah. And they're not the third we want.
Yeah, right.
Aluminum leads the batch. So to make a long story short, on the school, we did it the second year. Well, it made everybody so upset they canceled the science projects forever. They just, no more science projects. And I took the hit for that. Well, all of a sudden, all my bad deeds didn't look too bad because how did I learn about the power plant? I treat all the guys that work there. And they tried their best because then they got insurance policies that excluded chiropractic. So there you can't go to him no more. Well, they did anyways. And the one guy was downstairs with a hose cleaning something. Nothing's coming out. I wonder what's going on. The hose broke and straight up to the master control panel to the entire power plant. And that water hit it, it tripped everything off. And suddenly he's standing in the dark, and the scrubbers on the bug power plant ceased to function, and the smoke went right up, right down into the 3rd and 4th graders who were out for recess. Oh, shit. This is the last Friday before Easter, so they hurry the kids in, they triaged like 11 of them, and they typed up a letter, go home and take a shower. Well, this is the same superintendent that wouldn't let me go on the ground. So this lady brings it into me. Well, I pick up the phone. Let's see, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. Half an hour, helicopters were flying around. Hey, look at that. And got, made a big stink about it. And then some of the board members were patients. I had them all meet. So if you get so many board members in an area, by law, that's considered a board meeting. So we're all standing around the air collecting ductwork. And we got this thing, and I go like that, and the black soot comes out, and I gather it all up, and we all walk it down to the post office together and mail it. And it came back that the school was basically trashed. And they spent $18,000 cleaning the school. Then they hired a consulting firm that the state of Michigan told me to hire, this David Rodabaugh from Ferris State, to prove that our school had more lead than a lead smelting factory in the ductwork. And they go, well, the power plant promises to call us if they go off a line so we can lock down. They cleaned the school up, and that was it. So I kept fighting to the highest level of the EPA. And the EPA comes down and says it is more important for society to be able to turn on light switches than the health of the government school district. So you all heard about Flint. I'm down in Florida recovering from an elbow operation, and I'm sitting there with my mother, and the governor gets on one of these C-SPANs or something like that. And the governor, I thought, was going to break down and cry because he was just now so upset about all these people that were getting lead. And the next day, the guy from the Detroit Free Press who broke all the Ciders gets on, and he's just like, I can't believe the mayor or the governor didn't listen to us 6 months ago. Instead of cooking the doctor, this pediatrician. So I called up a friend of mine. She is on the Court of Appeals for the state of Michigan. And I called Jane. I says, Jane, you got the governor's number? She goes, yeah, it's on my cell phone. You want it? I says, nah, he want to talk to him right now. He's in a world of hurt. I said, I thought he was going to break down and cry on TV. She says, I sat at the State of the State in the second row, and I thought he was going to break down too. We all thought that something was up. Turns out it took 1,200 pastors' signature on a petition to get the governor to take a look at the lead problem in Flint. So they got tired of paying to pumping the water from Detroit all the way up to Flint. They go, yeah, we got this old river out here. We're going to switch this around. And they started pulling all this water out of the river, and it was highly acidic. Remember the toilet that I had that the green stuff swirls around? That's what they lined all the lead, everything in Flint's lead. So they put this chemical in there that lined it. Well, the acid washed everything out of there. So if you think one joint is bad, the whole system was lead. And then when the people are getting sick and getting stupid and getting ill, they go, oh, it's not happening. So I called up Jane and said, well, she says, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know, you think about it. She called me back in 10 minutes. She says, call this person. I said, who's that? They go, well, this is the head of the Republican Party for the state of Michigan. She's an African-American, and her dad's on the Flint school board. So I call her up, and she said, well, if you're good enough for Jane, you're good enough for me. Saturday is the African Heritage Day of Flint. And we're going to be giving out awards, and there's a couple thousand people there. And I show up, and I had made a paper, a 16-page thing, a response on how to use selenium and Brazil nuts to get the lead out of all the children. It's very easy to do as long as you give them enough selenium and Brazil nuts. So I took it to the only health food store there. Then I went to the meeting. You have to understand that this community is not necessarily looking at a white person as a real friendly face, because I was the only one there. So people weren't coming up to shake my hand, asking why I was there. What I did is I waited for the person that was getting the award, because they stand there and go, hi, I appreciate the award, but the first thing I have to do is I have to talk about the church I go to and the pastor, which is a stand-up pastor. So these are the Shaker and the Baker pastors. So I walked up and gave every one of those this paper I made, and I went up to the mayor of Flint and I said, here's my paper. She says, I'll give it to my pastor. But the church I go to took a lot of phone calls because we put my name in what church I went to. And as far as I know, that paper spread around Flint to all 13 or 1,500 pastors. So you can get some of these heavy metals out of your body. Lead is one you get out with selenium at a 1-to-1 ratio. Cadmium you get out of the body with selenium at a 1-to-1 ratio. Mercury goes out of the body at a 1-to-1 ratio.
When you say 1-to-1 ratio...
1 molecule of lead to 1 molecule of cadmium. So going back to the first one, aluminum on hair test. There's so much aluminum in our environment. If I don't see that aluminum in the yellow, then that person's retaining it. And those are the ones you're going to worry about having neurological disturbances of any and every kind, particularly dementia. So if I don't see it, antimony, well, when you see antimony, you just say you have to stop drinking bottled water. What is bottled water? Well, it's nothing but city water put into a bottle. Is it water? No, it's a slurry. Does it have fluoride? You bet it's got fluoride in it. It probably has 1.2 parts per million of fluoride. Because if I open up a gallon of milk and it's sour, I can smell that sour milk and I'm not going to drink it. How many times have you ever opened up a bottle of water and says, oh, this water is bad? It's not. It's fluoridated. There's nothing that grows in the water. It's an antibiotic. But you also get the PBAs, the PBBs, and there's a new one out of PBC, and then you get the antimony. So when I see elevated antimony levels, I tell people, you can't keep drinking this bottled water. You're going to have to secure your water supply, do something different.
So what do you drink for bottled water?
I don't.
Where do you drink water?
Wherever I go, where I live, I take water with me.
But what is that source that you take with you?
Oh, I have groundwater that's analyzed, filtered, and clean.
From the spring or the water?
Well, I live next to a lake that's a spring. But even at that, this lake was noted to have the biggest pike in the state of Michigan. So everybody took their boat motors in there with gasoline since they made leaded gasoline in boat motors. Now you dump a gallon of it back up till they made it the 2-cycle 50-to-1 oils. It was 1 quart of oil for 6 gallons of gas. If you went out on your boat and burned up 6 gallons of gas, you put 1 quart of motor oil into the lake. And the prop just dissolves it and disperses it, and the stuff settles to the bottom. So yeah, you can have quote clean water be really dirty.
Really like Poland Spring water here that this gal's drinking is.
Water is not water until it's tested to be water. We're way past this. Trust anything you think that tastes good. Yeah. That just doesn't work at all. Oh, I've got a well. So there's one guy, this Amish man, this Mennonite man, started to have a heart problem. Go back to arsenic. He had a heart problem. And the Mennonites are quick to try this. If it don't work in a few days, don't feel better. I let this guy go for about 3 weeks. I showed up and I says, I think we better do a hair test. Why? I says, I think you've got something into your system. Okay, so the day I bring over his hair test to show that he had red line arsenic levels, and arsenic will cause lots of heart problems, even at low doses. I'm going to tell him about this, and I look up at a 17-year-old son, and his son has a gray beard. I said, that premature gray is arsenic. Oh, you don't understand. Our family prematurely grays. Well, maybe your family's been on arsenic. So we cut his beard off and sent it off, and it was red line arsenic. And when I said, here's the article on heart problems, here is the arsenic levels, I showed him the shop teacher to our high school who had arsenic. It's a $6,000 filter. He bought 2 and spent $13,000 because he has 9 kids to get whole house. We put him on some homeopathy, arsenic detox, selenium, and folic acid, and the heart problems were gone.
And what?
Folic acid, selenium, and then arsenic homeopathy. The hair of the dog when you're taking diluted stuff, and you put a drop in a glass of water. And we eliminated his symptomatology of heart problems, which was low-level arsenic toxicity. Now, it's 9 million homes in northeast United States have arsenic in the water. I would strongly suggest if you have your own wells and you live anywhere east of the Mississippi, check it, because I condemn a well of wheat based on hair test. If Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. and one of the kids has got it, we check the water. If it's in the water, that water is condemned until you get the arsenic out of it. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any relation between arsenic in the water and
Mental health? If it makes your liver not work right, there's a lot of anger issues with that. And anything that makes the liver not work right makes people very angry. You could probably Google arsenic and mental instability, but it doesn't end up at the top of the list. You end up more with malignancies and other problems.
What about distilled water?
Well, if you're going to distill water, and what are you going to put it in? A piece of plastic? You're going to suck everything out of the plastic. I mean, really, if you look at reverse osmosis, it's almost distilled water. You better watch what you put it in because it wants to equalize with other things.
You can put it in glass.
Put it in glass, yeah.
Yeah, I have glass.
And put something in it. Put some lemon juice in it, or put something in it.
Apple cider vinegar.
This is a borosilicate glass.
A borosilicate glass, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And
That's what I drink water out of. It prevents microwave radiation from getting into it also. So you can,
spell that. I'm gonna write that down.
Boro, B-O-R-O, and then silica, L-I-C-A.
you can find these on eBay, Bonison, B-O-N-I-S-O-N.
Have you experimented with that clay, bentonite clay?
Well, I don't use bentonite clay because the aluminum content is so right through the roof.
It is.
I mean, a lot of people, hey, I do that. I mean, if you're going to tell me you're going to put it on your skin for wounds and stuff like that, I think that might be a good drying agent. But I also look at what transdermal patches are. I got a nicotine patch, I got a hormone patch. All these transdermal patches use what to get it across the skin? Aluminum. I try not to get aluminum in my system at all because it's not a good thing.
What about BPA plastic or non-BPA plastic?
Well, if I get people, yeah, the one that says number 8 on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know what that is, if you get bottles and you flip it over, it's got 8 on the bottom, then you're probably going to get far less stuff out of it. I think they do something to the plastic to harden it. I don't know exactly what it is. So if you have high aluminum, how do you want to get that out? You're going to take cilantro. Cilantro. That's the great aluminum and mercury detoxifier. Cilantro. Arsenic is folic acid and selenium. Antimony, just stop using it. And they also make homeopathy antimony detox. I don't know how else to get antimony out.
How about parsley? Is parsley? I heard parsley is a detoxifier.
Parsley has a lot of boron, and boron is a mineral that will help detox. So anything with chlorophyll that's got any type of boron. Boron is second to selenium in heavy metal detox. And boron's water soluble, and boron's the second most abundant mineral in the brain that's displaced by the aluminum. Yes.
I mean, if you, I mean, my hypothesis is that obviously boron prevents microwave radiation from permeating. So if you have enough boron in your body, you're going to be protecting yourself from a device like this by.
The question is what is boron doing to protect you? When the Fukushima plant went up or down, however you want to look at it, they brought in all of South Korea's stores of boron. They brought in metric tons and dumped it on the reactors, except they were putting 100,000 gallons of water a minute into the reactor. And all they did was just wash all the boron into the ocean. Unlike Chernobyl, where then this event went down, they brought in metric tons of boron and just buried everything in boron because boron can accept this energy and release it without changing the proton neutrons in the center of the molecule, and that's the only mineral that's stable. So when boron is in your body, it keeps your DNA code far more stable to all these forms of radiation, whether they're ionizing or whether they're micro. It's one of the best defenses we have to keep your molecule stable. Yes?
What natural food sources?
Oh, prunes.
Boron?
Prunes. All fruit has boron, but prunes is number 1. Just like selenium is number 1 for a Brazil nut, a prune is number 1 for boron.
What about dates?
Dates have it. If you eat apples, eat the apple seeds. That's where all the boron is. Now, the next question was apple cider. Vinegar. Well, if it's Brad's apple cider vinegar or something that looks and smells like it, so it's got a mother on the bottom, you have all the apple squeezings, you have the seed remnants, well, that's all boron. Well, there's a good fair of that. That's where the boron is in the mother that falls to the bottom, so make sure you shake it up and take it. Taking straight acetic acid doesn't do anything. But if you have good vinegar with all those trace minerals, you're going to get a lot of boron. Don't eat apple seeds without the apple, you'll get sick, maybe kill yourself. But if you eat the seed with the apple, that's just totally fine in my book. The fiber, yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on supplements that might contain boron or some of these other minerals? Do you have a good feeling about that?
Say the question again.
Supplements that would contain boron.
Well, let's talk about supplements. 91% of the supplements taken by America come from where?
China.
China. China knows how to bomb us one pill at a time. Have you seen a 1-a-day vitamin?
Oh, God. It's scary.
Food colorings. Whenever you see FDC and blue number 1, if it's got the word lake, with or without the word aluminum, the word lake means aluminum. So, woman's 1-a-day vitamins has 4 forms of food coloring in it. It's all aluminum. Now, why in the world would you want to have 4 forms of aluminum in the pill? All right, tell me what lives off of aluminum. Nothing. So that makes for great shelf life. And the aluminum in the acidity of detried drinking water can be directed into rats that get force-fed this stuff in 3 minutes. Here's your typical candy. Candy. I mean, Halloween is nothing but an aluminum nightmare. I think my kids are really strung out on sugar. They can't remember their schoolwork for 3 weeks. Oh, no kidding. Maybe it's the aluminum. Here's woman's 1-a-day, right here. This is taken right off the website of the woman's 1-a-day. Calcium carbonate, which is about a useless form of calcium that you can get from the human body. Microcrystallized wood. Well, that makes the pill bigger for you. Ascorbic acid made from genetically modified corn. Iron, betaine, biotin, vitamin D, chromium, crossomelo, sodium, nobody knows what that is. Copper, cobalamin, vitamin D5, one of the 8 vitamin E's, and then you have all that aluminum, folic acid, more wood, magnesium, sulfur, titanium dioxide. Oh, the titanium dioxide is in their color. No, it's not. So, aluminum is spread out into multiple ingredients. Why? So it's not sitting at the top of the pile, because I have to list this from most to least. So if you want yourself a nice pill that'll have a shelf life of 10 years, coat it with aluminum. Lace it with aluminum. We have no working genes for aluminum whatsoever. So aluminum is like not any fun. Seems to be a lot of aluminum in the environment. Acid rain causes aluminum to become a solid to a liquid in the soil. And that can be a real bad deal once it's on the move. Fish, crawdads, all that type of stuff, they have the gills, the brain tells it how to work, the nerve junctions, the aluminum gets in there and they suffocate. So you got to stay away from that aluminum factor to the best of your ability.
Ask a question about boron again.
Boron.
I read this in a book, and it was expressing the importance of boron. If you can't get boron, you can actually take a little bit of the laundry soap
Borax.
and have it. Is that?
In Australia, this Rex Newman, back in the 50s, he discovered that boron was going to be the answer to arthritis, tremendous effects on the neurological diseases. He took it to a senator, and he says, I know exactly what to do with this information. He was on the board of directors of a drug company, and he got the legislators to outlaw boron. So in Australia, that's what they eat, is borax.
And this guy was Australian.
Yeah, down there, they know how to do it. They eat soap all the time. It doesn't bother them at all.
Okay.
What would be a concentration?
It does become.
I don't know how much they're using, but I know that is their source of boron.
Walter C. Last, 1/8 of a teaspoon for
men, it's 1/8 of a teaspoon in a liter of water, and it's a quarter of a teaspoon for women.
Well, they said if you take 30 milligrams of boron every day, in 5 weeks, your arthritis has been gone. I have been taking 30 milligrams a day since August 1st. And you do not suddenly and instantly feel better because you're changing the whole dynamics of your genetic code, and you're detoxifying, and you're turning on genes that take a long time for the rebuilding process to go on. Boron is a fantastic mineral that gets suppressed by aluminum. Boron is when it comes to the brain, it makes your short-term and your long-term memory work fantastically better. And when you get older and your boron levels get low, if you're female, your estrogen goes up, your testosterone levels go down, you don't like to be loved, you dry out, and life isn't fun in that bedroom setting. When you go on boron, the estrogen comes down, the testosterone comes up, and then it's fun again. And men that have any kind of a PSA elevation is a sign it's a boron problem. And boron will naturally raise male testosterone.
So if you can get boron in a supplement?
Oh, absolutely. Now, to answer your question, what I think about supplements with boron,
Yes.
I look at minerals as a way of applying the laws of gravity to the genetic code. You got gravity, magnetism, weak and strong electrical forces. And the most important minerals are iodine, selenium, magnesium, boron, and vitamin D3. I happen to, by way, market that, but we can't talk about that. But I have a card if you want some, you can call me up later and get it. It's called the Grand Unified Mineral Complex. I put all that stuff, and instead of spending $2 and $3 a day on pills, I have it all in one pill. It's 25 cents a day to cover yourself to the laws of physics in your DNA code. Based on the book, Minerals for Tumor Suppressing Genes, is how I developed that pill.
What are they? Iodine, selenium?
Iodine, selenium, boron, magnesium.
Yeah, but it's a specific selenium that you.
It's got, you want to make sure that it's selenomethionine, 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 because the selenium is attached to an amino acid. That gives it that organic touch. And then the kelp should come from either North American kelp, which is up in Maine, or Thorium kelp, which is harvested on the north side of Iceland, and it's certified organic.
Why is it that you want to stay away from West Coast kelp?
Fukushima.
Yeah, I assumed it was. I just wanted to.
You just wanted to hear it.
Wanted to make sure I was connecting the dots.
Yeah. Wood kelp.
Fill up the globe.
What's your thoughts on Lugal solution? I was raised on.
Okay, very good on Lugal solution. Mr. Lugal is still alive. He's 87 years old. He has a lab in Colorado. And it's called Hanika, H-A-N-A-K-I-A. I believe that's Hanika Labs in Colorado. And you call him up and you give him your credit card number, and he's going to send you some Lugal solution. He's going to give you a pee cup. And then what you get for your money is you pee in a cup, and then he tells you your base saturation. Farmers know base saturation. But we need to know what the most heaviest dense metal of the body controlling your thyroid is. And then he'll tell you if you have fluoride coming out of you because of this iodine challenge. He'll tell you if you've got bromine coming out of you. And the Lugal solution is what triggers the release of this stuff. And if you are low in his book, then you take whatever iodine you want. If you want to take Lugals, that's fine. You want to take sea kelp, that's fine. But you've got to have iodine in the body to run the show to the laws of physics.
So what was the name of the lab?
Hanika. No, I'll dig it up. I'll even show you what the thing looks for. Let's see, I got to go to Gmail.
Now, will your hair test tell you the same thing? Or
No, well, it does, but I don't really like the hair test. Hair test is a good screening process, and people can argue that it's not as good as other things, and I'll agree 100%. But I'm looking for 38 of the 42 minerals found in your brain, and I want to see a trend.
Yeah.
W-R-I-G-H-T. Kim Wright. This lady was, there we go, right there. Don't call Barb up until you see me, she'll get pissed. She lived in Mayo, and they had a massive polybromated biphenyl spill back in the 70s. And then they buried all these cows without making line pits and stuff. And they got test monitors up, and she has been really sick. So we tested her in a 24-hour excretion, and she had only 20%. So she was drastically low in iodine. And her bromide and her fluoride levels came underneath the radar. But she only showed a 20% saturation. So this lady was in desperate need of magnesium for iodine for a long period of time. You put that back up.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's how you test your iodine loading, and you test it and you get it right. Because gravity and magnetism are run by minerals in your DNA code, and you got your everything runs on thyroid.
So if I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
I'm already on Lugals. Should I be off of it or go with what
I would ask the lab what to say. I mean, they might say, well, go off it for 3 days. Okay, so let's say you give me a vitamin D test and you're like tanked out low. I say, oh great, you need to be on 10,000 units of vitamin D. I want you checked in 2 months. Stop taking the vitamin D 3 days before you have tested, because it takes a while to get it out of the blood into the cells. You don't want to test the pill you took this morning.
Right.
You want to know what the system is, not just the bloodstream.
Okay, thank you.
Will a blood test giving blood and then doing like the pee test? And,
Never had that question. That couldn't even. I'm probably not too much of a buffer.
I mean, start cleaning your process,
Yeah.
cleaning your blood out first, I guess.
That's one way to get cleaned out. But that is the research lab to test yourself, to know your base load iodine. 80% of Americans don't have enough iodine, and those that get some iodine is drastically low. I tell people, well, I use salt. Well, once in a while, yeah, once in a while. Is it Gordon's? Well, there's more aluminum in there, and the body doesn't want aluminum. It shuts down everything, so you can't absorb the aluminum. You don't get no benefit of the iodine. So the source of the iodine can make a tremendous difference.
Is dulse seaweed?
I don't use salt for anything.
No, dulse.
Oh, dulse. Oh, the plant. Yes, absolutely.
Is that better than kelp, or the same, or worse? Or how does it compare?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't use it. I know what it is. Well, I can buy a 50-pound bag of Thorium kelp. I can buy a 50-pound bag of American kelp. I don't know where to buy 50 pounds of dulse.
Main seaweed guy. Something.
Oh, does he? Huh?
Yeah.
I told him, his sister's here. I called him up and I said, there's a conference here. I said, right down the street from you. And I talked to his sister, oh, he's going to wait to acres. Yes, ma'am.
So how do you incorporate kelp into your diet?
Well, this capsule I make called the Grand Unified Mineral Complex, I got 3 milligrams of iodine and the kelp is in the pill.
So it's in a pill.
Have you ever tried to make kelp soup? Nobody eats it. It's not like you got a dead fish in the kitchen. It doesn't work.
It goes good with the hamburger.
Yes, ma'am.
So you use the hair testing to test for the bad minerals that you want.
Well, there's another part to this. That's the good minerals. When I start to see higher barium levels, I'm going to see calcium and magnesium goofed up, and I'm not going to see any selenium. Because barium is a +2, and the body does not want barium in it at all, and it'll grab every bit of selenium to bind the barium up and get it out. Barium puts you into a state of unconsciousness. It gives you blinding headaches and severe memory loss, and I have had many barium cases, especially the kids that use the red hair dyes.
The red what?
Hair dyes. You know, when your kids turn 18 and they can do whatever they want, look freaky as all get out, and put multiple colors in their hair, and every week it's a different color. What do you think they're using to make these colors? They're using minerals they shouldn't have in their life, let alone in their hair. See down there where it says tin right off the roof? Well, this was a plumber. We knew that was coming from the plumbing, but I get women that come in, and this one lady named Katie. Katie was really, she comes in, Richard, I go, Katie, what in the world's wrong with you? She goes, I thought this was from my boyfriend's working in the gas and oil wells. He's been gone 6 months. This t-shirt was bought last week, and it was red, right here, right underneath the sweat glands of the breast. What is it? And I curl it up and I stick it right next to her hair, and I go, huh, same color as your hair, Katie. I says, I want you to go back to your beautician, and I want you to come back with the box. Well, the box come back, it's written in Spanish. I couldn't read a thing. It was come from Mexico. I flip it over, and I find the word ingredient, and I start typing all this stuff in. The third ingredient is some fancy word, /tin. Well, plants and humans suck up tin just like a sponge does water on the counter. And with Katie and that red hair dye went right in, and then the sweat glands of the breast pushed it out. We did 12 ionic foot baths, and it turned those ionic foot baths red for the first time. And it just sucks it in. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not too worried about tin, but what's that other chemical attached to the tin that your liver or something's got to deal with and get rid of it? Or did it just stuff it in the spinal cord and said, wait for a rainy day to get rid of it? So that happened, and about 3 weeks later, I'm treating this lady, I'm treating this man and his wife as, you're Mr. Smarty Pants Know-It-All. What's wrong with my hands? And I go stand in the mirror. I can tell you exactly what your hair shampoo was. And I pull the box off my desk. It was still there. She's like, how did you know that? I said, because your hands are the same color as your hair. It just sucks it right in. That's what prompted me to start an organic beauty salon, because people are just poisoning themselves with some of these hair dyes. Terrible. Terrible. So we covered tin. Let's go down one and talk about titanium. So I see titanium, and all the women that are told by their doctors to eat calcium pills, they go to a big box store and they buy Citrical. And the fifth ingredient is titanium. because Americans somehow seem to think they need big white pills. And that's the food coloring. Except the titanium goes in and disrupts the hepatic liver cells in a really bad way. Question?
There once upon a time was tin foil.
Yeah.
And then we went to aluminum foil. So we went from being absolutely horrible in the first place to even worse. I mean,
yeah, I don't know how Alcoa got into it.
It's one of the things I've always said to people about tin and aluminum foil. I mean, tin seemed to have less problems than aluminum foil. Aluminum foil is just...
I was getting ready to go to a standard process conference on Medi-Herb, and I knew I was going to meet the guy that founded the company, so every herb that he had, I went and found the genetic sequence to, and I found what amount of minerals are in it. So I was getting ready. I had 3 weeks preparation for nothing, as it turned out. But what did I learn? That unbelievable amount of tin in plants. And nobody knows why it's there. And we find tin in human beings, and it's just an extraneous source. And it comes back. All the tin I'm seeing is coming from hair dyes. And the red dyes are the worst. Now, the aluminum factor, cooking in aluminum is ridiculous. Why don't you go make spaghetti in your aluminum pot and see how it cleans it up? It just dissolves the aluminum, puts it in your food. I mean, that's like make you from the planet stupider.
I have a question. If our bodies have these high levels of toxic minerals or whatever, does that affect the biology in our guts? I mean, does it kill off, or does it affect it in a way that, they say that our guts are 90% of bacteria, and that controls our health?
What's the best way to look at this one here, that question? I think for every mineral, there is an associate bacteria. And I think for every 2 minerals, there's an associate bacteria. And for every 3 minerals that you can think of, you can come up with a bacteria. And for every 3 minerals, or 4 minerals, or 5 minerals, there's a bacteria that lives off these frequencies. And to take concentrations of heavy metals would be to take the minerals that we do need and disrupt the flora of how it works. How does it work in the brain? Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, superoxide dismutase number 1, which balances the copper zinc in the brain. So you got cells in the brain that have to have this heavily guarded mechanism to keep brain functioning. But the presence of cadmium not being removed by by glutathione, which is made because of selenium, causes just that cadmium molecule sitting there causes the bonding angle of superoxide to change. And it's such a change that the body doesn't know what it is, and it puts it into the trash can and says, make another one. Well, when the trash can breaks, the nerve cell dies. And by the time you start losing function because of this, you're well on your way to being dead from Lou Gehrig's disease. So these minerals, just by the magnetic presence, can have more of an effect than I can explain to you. And how does it actually work in the gut? Do a poop test. Find out what bacteria you're missing. I have people that have completely no lactobacillus whatsoever, and they have good stuff. And then there's other commercial bacteria that are overgrowth, and they have pathological bacteria. I find yeast, I find parasites. You've got to clean the immune system up and recolonize it with what you can. Get rid of the heavy metals and put the good minerals in. Your gut is 80% of the immune system. The 20% of the immune system that runs that 80% is the cerebrospinal fluid, which is replenished every 8 hours and has 252 different things in it. That runs 11,000 of your 21,000 genes. Okay, so here is a husband-wife domination law in the book from acupuncture, and we need iodine to control phosphates. Our thyroid needs to tell the mitochondria how much energy to burn. No iodine, you're going to be fat, lazy, and stupid. Too much iodine, you get skinny and all wired out because your thyroid's overworking. So it's got to be iodine to phosphorus. Well, let's take Pepto-Bismol. Why does Pepto-Bismol work? It's an antibiotic. I wouldn't take it. It's a level 9 mineral. It makes everything work in reverse. It's not a good mineral. I don't like to see bismuth when I see it. When I see bismuth on a hair test, I know a person's got a lot of indigestion problems, or they've been using way too much makeup, because the only two places I get bismuth is makeup and Pepto-Bismol, the pink pills. Now let's look at fluoride. Why is fluoride added to things? Because it kills bacteria that causes tooth decay. That makes it an antibiotic. So do the minerals that we take affect our microbiome? Yeah, I definitely say so.
What causes tooth decay, you said?
Tooth decay is caused from bacteria that live on your teeth that eat it, that love sugar. So don't stop the sugar. Put something in your mouth that will kill that bacteria. But remember the commercials, TV commercials in the 60s and 70s? We've got fluoride to kill the bacteria that stops tooth decay. Mm-hmm. That was as smart as most doctors prefer Terrytons. Just misleading. But yeah, to answer your question, do various compounds affect the gut bacteria? Absolutely. Are you going to find fluoride in food? Yeah. Just drink red tea. I mean, the old style tea bags, red bud or something like that, that's really high in fluoride. So you can find products that have it, but it's also locked into an organic compound versus just taking sodium fluoride, a known neurotoxin and killer, and adding it to things. Completely different environment, yes?
Again, all this is very new to me, so this is probably such a basic question, but aluminum foil, if you're using it for cooking, for boiling, from everything I'm hearing from you, that is a deadly or very bad combination.
You never heard me say that I would cook with it ever. You heard someone in the crowd say that, but I agree.
So that's,
well, I did say that. I said cook your spaghetti into it and clean your pan up is what I said.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no place for cooking with anything that's acidic. It's the acid. Acid rain from car exhaust rains on the ground, takes the fourth most abundant mineral in the soil, which is aluminum, and turns it from a solid to a liquid. And then when it's a liquid, it ravages everything. So where's my aluminum factor? There it is right there. Yeah. Aluminum is to be dominated by sodium to be pushed out of the kidneys. You excess the aluminum. So how did they first find out about aluminum poisoning in the drinking water? They made these really fancy machines called kidney dialysis machines. And they did not standardize the drinking water until a fair amount of people lost their lives because they'd go, well, give me the garden hose. And they hook it up to the machine, and they'd push this into people, and all of a sudden their hands would shake, they'd lose the ability to speak, and they died within 3 days of very violent death from the aluminum jumping right into the blood-brain barrier and shorting out the brain. They go, gosh, what's wrong with that? Well, then they had to standardize the water. You can't use that city water. They didn't say that your water's bad. They go, we're going to use our own. Charge you for it. So I had my first case of, it's called dialysis dementia. This guy came in. It was a Monday, and he says, well, what were you doing last Friday? I said, I don't know. I live on a lake. I was water skiing. I was on a pontoon boat. I might have been drinking a beer. Why? Well, my back went out, and you weren't here. And I says, I know. I was on the lake drinking beer. I says, what did you do Monday? He says, oh, we buried Mom Monday morning. Well, I know I got an emotional backache and buried his mother. I don't think he carried her out and stuck her in the hole. He just got all emotionally upset. I said, what happened? He said, well, I got a new girlfriend. I said to myself, oh, that house ain't big enough for 2 women. This is going to get interesting. Because that happens. And he goes, well, you know, after my girlfriend moved in, my mother got a bit nervous, and she was starting to hurt, and I took her to the doctor, and the doctor said, Margaret, are you still taking 10 aspirin a day for your arthritis? Yes. Well, you need to switch to the coated aspirin because it's upsetting your stomach. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what do we got going on here? 10 aspirin a day. What just got introduced to this equation? I go, oh, what kind of aspirin was that? It was Ecotrin. Can't wait to boot this guy out the door. He's going to get better. I know it. I run down to the drugstore. I buy a bottle of Ecotrin. I come back home. I can't find the ingredient list. I got to call the company up, give them my mother's maiden name, almost like getting a credit card, to find out that each pill contained 49.5 milligrams of aluminum. Oh, she went from no aluminum to dang near 500 milligrams of aluminum. How long did it take her to die from Ecotrin? 3 weeks. So you ever heard of the word Mylanta? My and the word Al in Atlanta means aluminum. So every time you do a Mylantin you're getting 200 milligrams of aluminum. If you get extra strength, you're getting 400. Can't wait to take that. I mean, they sell this aluminum right over the counter with the name on the label. Aluminum causes the pericardial sac to get congested and it backs up the kidneys. And then you lose control of sodium. The sodium goes up and your blood pressure goes through the roof and they put you on diuretics. Got to get back to that chart.
A couple of years ago, I put sweet potatoes in the microwave and I saw arcing going on.
Arcing?
You think that might be aluminum in the sweet potatoes?
I don't know. I got rid of my microwave a long time ago.
You don't
I do all these house calls to the Amish, but to those who are not Amish, I walk in with a microwave detector. And I go to this farm who was conventional. When I got Organic Valley to northern Michigan, I'm doing these house calls and I walk up and I go, last time I'm coming here, that wasn't even good morning. I gotta understand, I'm getting there at 4:45 in the morning. I've driven 45 minutes to get to this farm because I do this big loop. And they go, what do you mean, Dr. Olree? Says, I told you that microwave was a bad thing, and I can microwave detect this coming up the stairs. You're going to say that my vitamins didn't work, the treatments are no good. When you get breast cancer, when you're standing in front of a microwave that I can measure outside the house. And her husband went, that's it. That was the end of it. That's, to this day, they were plugged in.
So even if it's not working?
No, it was working. But I was coming up the steps when it was on, and I come in the back door, and I was from here to this gentleman, and my microwave meter was pegged. That meant that that door was leaking like crazy, and I'm supposed to be their doctor telling them all these good things to do and keep them in their health. And they're getting their kids out of bed to take treatments. What's wrong with this one? He's bedwetting. That's what's got. And here they're saturating themselves with microwaves. And I just said, I ain't coming here again because you just don't even understand that you're just bathing in microwaves, and you get sick, you're going to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, that husband just walked over and goes, well, that ain't ever going to happen again. You'll be able to come back here next month. It's the bad. I have no faith in microwaves whatsoever because they're ruining the oxygen molecule. Oxygen, hydrogen, water. They got the frequency of water down really good, and they shake it until it makes everything vibrate. And I just think it destroys the properties of what my body is made of 78% of, water.
And plus, you're loading yourself up with aluminum, too.
I try not to do anything with aluminum. To answer your question, Lord knows what made that thing spark.
What's that?
Lord knows what made that spark. I stuck my microwave detector in the microwave. I don't run a microwave detector anymore. It smoked until I ran over and pulled the plug. Yes, ma'am.
So to bridge into the detox part, is it as simple as making sure that you're eating seaweed and cilantro and Brazil nuts? How do you go about detoxing?
For that particular gentleman, he was so sick and so bad, I sent him down to Dr. Kenny Boron in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who did chelation therapy, because he didn't have any time to waste. I just said, this is more than I'm going to pull out. You're stage 3 mesothelioma. The stuff is in your gut, your lungs. And he had a really good recovery. He did everything he was supposed to do. He took all my vitamins and minerals and went through that stuff and had his operation. His goal was to live to see deer season. Oh, he lived way past deer season. 4 months later, he comes in, and he said, I'm not feeling too good. I said, well, you fired me a long time ago. He said, well, I didn't fire you. I said, you quit buying supplements 4 months ago. Well, I was feeling better. I said, that might be your downfall. I said, you go back to your doctor and have him check you. And it all came back. And we got everything out of him, got him suppressed, got him going good, and he immediately went back to his old lifestyle. He says, I can't afford this. I go, well, you can't afford not to. And really, the last time I seen him after that, I went to his house 3 days before he died. I said, I tried. That's all I can do.
Is chelation just, does it affect all of them, or does it just affect what we consider?
No, it pulls all kinds of minerals out.
Right, even ones you want?
I bet you can go and have the bags for hundreds of dollars and whatever it costs an office call and all that kind of stuff. Or you can do rectal chelation, which is far less expensive, and you do it every other day at home, which I've been doing that for years. And there's a new product in my health food store that takes longer, but it's not getting people to put pellets where the sun doesn't shine, and children that don't like anything to go where the sun doesn't shine. So we just give them pills. And it's made of stuff that detoxifies it slower. I've had a couple of cases where the hair showed toxicity of arsenic, but one thing, when we started the detox process, there was far more than was coming out the hair. And the toenails and stuff started falling off because of the arsenic. It was coming out. I mean, coming out big time. So there's cases that I'll get, it's like, okay, we got a lot of arsenic. So we're going to do this, and we checked the hair in 3 months. Sure, arsenic went way down, but mercury, cadmium, lead, half these other minerals go right through the roof, and they go, what are you doing to me? And I said, well, I guess you were a lot more full of minerals than I thought. We got the detox process coming on. You keep doing what you're doing, and we'll check it in 3 months. And the screening process works really good. I go to Australia, the very first home that put me up, mom, dad, 2 boys and a girl. The middle boy was a problem child. So we get the hair test back, and I call them up, and I say, what do you think of those hair tests? You have to understand, there's no groundwater in Australia. Everything is collected from the roofs and stored in cement tanks. And they got a little bit of an acid rain problem down there, and it's dissolving the tanks. So about every mineral and cement was found in these people. And the whole family was pretty well toxed out, except the middle-aged boy had no cadmium whatsoever. His brothers and sisters and mom and dad had a lot of cadmium. And I said, now here's all the known problems of learning disabilities with cadmium. And I said, he's not getting rid of it. And we put him on a detox program, and about 6 months later, he started to learn in school again, and all of his anger issues went away. And a lot of things happened. I was able to look at a family and say, there's the kid with the problem, because given the same food, the same air, the same environment, everything, this kid's not getting rid of anything, and his brothers and sisters are. So you can pick up on stuff like that too. And the ALS patients typically don't have any cadmium in their hair. They've internalized it. And then when it gets to be so bad, it's still, by the time you find out, I don't care if you know the cause, you can't save them, because there's so many brain cells that have gone bad. You know, people say, well, you find no aluminum, and my mother's got Alzheimer's, can you bring her back? I go, I can't. I'll make no claims too. I says, I'll try to keep it from getting worse. And that's all I tell a lot of people. You have these conditions. I says, I don't know if we're going to get you better or not, but we're going to try to keep it from getting worse. And we start with the detox program. You know, we have to be detectives. If your water's got arsenic, it's got cadmium, it's got lead, call me when you got the filtration in place. Oh, I'll just drink bottled water. Well, I wouldn't do that either. What did your mother? Would you check your mother's farm? You only live across the street. I don't know what's going on with my computer.
What's the filtration protocol for tap water that you normally recommend?
Tap water, for people that live in apartments and low budget, reverse osmosis. Just get something. I mean, you're going to shower with this stuff is one thing, but cooking, canning, and putting it in baby bottles and stuff like that, I at least do something to get as much out as you can. And if you need to, put it in a glass container and put a couple drops of lemon or lime in it, which structures the water, because you just ruined everything that was in there, whatever structure you had, and you put structure back into the water. Okay, we're going to go down and talk about uranium, because I see a lot of uranium. I got a Mennonite dairy farm from Organic Valley. He's 70, she's 71 when this occurred. Both hairs came back, red line uranium. And I knew what to expect, because the first time I come across uranium, I called the guy in and I said, look, you own a big pit. You got an excavating business. The deeper down in the earth you go, the more chances you'll get radioactive metals. Why don't we test your hired man instead of telling your wife with MS that she might have uranium poisoning? He said, well, that's a good idea. His hired man didn't have any. So then we tested his wife, and she was red-line uranium just like he was. And I said, where'd you get this house? He goes, well, we got it from her grandparents. I said, what did they die from? Well, they both died from leukemia. I said, where do you think this leukemia came from? Just something that jumped out of the air? I said, no, this was a uranium-based immune system problem. So I knew what to expect. So, but except these farmers were Organic Valley farmers. And now I'm saying to myself, this is a good chance to find out if the uranium is in the cows or in the milk. So George Seaman is the president of Organic Valley. I called him up, and they don't ask. Nobody these guys answer their phone. You know how that is. You get a phone at it. Hi, George, Dr. Rich Olree. I think there might be uranium in some cows out in Lancaster County, wherever it was. It was further away than Lancaster. And about 3 minutes, Dr. Paul Detloff calls me up, and he says, Rich, what's going on? I said, well, these 2 Mennonites. And I told them the whole story. So they go, and they check the cow's hair. They check the milk. They confirmed it was in the water, but it wasn't going to the milk supply. They were satisfied. Dr. Paul called me up a month later. He says, my son-in-law is a geologist, and he says that uranium came from 3 Mile Island. I said, Paul, 3 Mile Island is 80 miles as the crow flies from this place. He says, yeah, but that happened in 1976. That's how far the water's traveled underground. So I do find uranium, and I do condemn wells with uranium in it. Problem is then I say, where do you live? You got uranium. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see how far the nearest nuclear power plant is to you. You got to filter it. And you can filter uranium out. You can filter anything out. At what cost is a bit different deal.
What would you use to filter uranium?
No. Actually, Culligan has a $7,000 system. It'll give your whole house, change the filters every 2 months.
Won't the boron help in the uranium?
Not filtering it.
No, but I mean,
if you have uranium is kind of a nasty mineral. It doesn't have an easy to get to charge. I mean, if cadmium is +2, I give you selenium -2. I can just whip it out. It's all over with. Uranium has a +4, +5, or a +6 charge, depending on the species. And these people don't speciate it. And I don't have anything that grabs that really easy. So it's not an easy thing to get out. We just use the uranium detox and homeopathy medicines to do that. And a lot of selenium and a lot of fatty omega-3s.
What about iodine?
Iodine is great for acute poisoning. Yeah, well, of course you're going to be taking a lot of iodine. You're going to take a lot of boron, a lot of selenium. But when you find it initially, now you put people into a state of shock that they've been drinking poisonous water. Once they get over that, then they got to go find out filtration systems. And when you get over the sticker shock from $7,000 to $13,000 to clean the water up, oh, just go ahead and sell your house, leave it to the next person. They don't do that. Nobody's done that yet. Let's see. Thorium. Thorium's another mineral up there that I primarily see thorium toxicity in the Amish. They have what? Gas mantles? Propane comes in, they got the gas mantle, you light the gas mantle on fire. What makes that gas mantle glow so much? That's thorium. And when you change the mantle, all the thorium's in the air. And thorium is a radioactive mineral. It's not nearly as bad as uranium, but I see primarily hair tests, and the Amish come back with thorium. And I say, look, go to the bishop, show him the radioactive test, and tell him you want a car battery and one of those LED lights in your house, and just quit using that. You got to get the bishop's permission. It works. Well, we got 10 minutes left. I guess we'll entertain questions. Got any questions? Any questions about your grandmother?
My mother.
Actually,
sure. So, arrhythmia.
Heart arrhythmia? Magnesium. Atrial fib? Long-term magnesium.
What source? Yeah.
You start them off on anything that won't give them diarrhea and feed them alive. When you do the hair test on people with arrhythmias, you find out that they're starving. Because when the hair test comes back with nothing in it, their stomachs aren't working and the heart's goofing up because it has such multiple deficiencies.
That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but I take. I say you got no stomach acid. You are starving in the presence of good organic food. You're not absorbing what you're getting because you do not have enough acid to break down the bonds. You're letting environmental bacteria slip past the stomach. Lord knows what you're cultivating down there. No stomach acids, gallbladder fluids, pancreas fluids. Your pancreas can't release its chemical enzyme because it takes hydrochloric acid. If you're over 55, you should be taking hydrochloric acid and some type of digestive enzyme with every meal.
Is that betaine?
Betaine, hydrochloric, yeah.
Dr. Olree,
yes.
What's the interpretation of congestive heart failure?
Congestive heart failure? Congestive heart failure. Well, you're always looking for the poison. What have they done? Because congestive heart failure doesn't happen to young people very often unless they just drink and smoke themselves right to the ground. Most people are older, their hearts are enlarged, their daily activities down to nothing, they don't have much digestion. At that point when they got congestive heart failure, you need to put minerals in that regulates the water in the body so the heart's not pumping so hard, so much fluid. And most of these type of people in congestive heart failure, I'm on more diuretics than you can shake a stick at, that have run all the magnesium out of the body. When the magnesium is gone, the selenium is gone. When the selenium is gone, they become virus-laden, and when they get all these diseases, they throw more antibiotics, and there's no immune system, and the liver's it's just a nightmare. I got a program called Drug Checker, and you just type in Drug Checker, and when I got people coming in for consults, and they pull out that big list of drugs, I sit there, what's the first one, what's the second one, what's the third one? When I get to about 13 or 14 and we're done, I hit play. And play means it tells me the interreactions of the drugs, and it goes mild, moderate, and severe. So it lists the severe. Let's see, you have 4 severe reactions going on, and I list everything, and then 27 moderate reactions. And they sit there and they go, every one of these things can be side effects of these medicines. That's why I'm taking these pills, because that's what I experience. I said, how many doctors you got? 4. Well, you have 3 too many. Well, you have one that's not doing his job. Because if your primary is your primary, and sending you to all these doctors, he should either be agreeing or disagreeing with the medicine, because the pharmacist certainly is in your back pocket. He's in the medical doctor's pocket because he doesn't want to get blackballed from telling patients that these drugs interact, because they go, well, some doctors do that even though it's bad. Yes?
Just an aside, one day I was standing by my kitchen window washing the dishes, and I looked up and it suddenly dawned on me the words active and inactive, which are used in pharmaceuticals, are legal terms and they're not chemical terms. And if you start looking at the inactive ingredient list, which is posted on the FDA website, there are 13,000 items on there, including coal tar dyes, including fluoride, including aspartame, including all the other things that they can throw into a drug. And the word inactive doesn't mean it's inactive, it just means it's legally, they can throw it in there and not be held liable.
The tobacco industry spent untold millions of dollars to find something that they can, sugar. They put sugar in all tobacco products now to keep you addicted. The whole concept of a fire-safe cigarette that came out with about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I found the literature that's nothing but a nicotine delivery system. And their whole idea was to save 400 people a year who get drunk and stupid and let their house burn down from cigarettes. I have seen pills, I'm like, what is sucralose or Splenda doing in a drug? I look at these vitamins, oh, these vitamins taste so good. I did a house call many years ago, and they're eating these Walmart chewable vitamin C, and I says, you can't have aspartame and sucralose, period. I says, aspartame is bad, it causes glioblastomas, it does all these, and sucralose, but the kids love it. I said, this causes brain tumors. 3 years later, their youngest child developed a brain tumor. And then, you go back, do you think that could have caused it? No. It's amazing what the China sell us. So now I tell people, you're taking vitamins, are you buying from a big box store or a drugstore? They go, yeah, I said, save your money. Just save your money, put a little bit more money towards organic food. I said, you'll be a lot better off than you will be taking them pills thinking you're safe. Because I can show you that they're full of aspartame, they're full of food. We don't even know what happened. If you can't pronounce it, it's got all these yellow dyes full of aluminum. I said, you'd be healthier without it. They did a study on the wrong kind of selenium. They said if you take a multiple vitamin, you're 42% more likely to become type 2 diabetic. And this was out of the University of Buffalo, and I wrote the author a letter. I says, are you looking at all the multiple vitamins coming from China where it's sodium selenate? They didn't answer. But that's what's in it, is a type of selenium that will give you diabetes. So what does the news say? Oh, if you take selenium, you're going to be diabetic. Let's see, there's 22 genes in your brain that mop up oxygen, becoming hydrogen peroxide, and it's on the tail and the head of every sperm cell. Let's see, that's not important. But that's what the news media presented, was taking a multiple vitamin means you're 40, and people remembered that. I can't take selenium, I don't want to be diabetic. I said, well, you missed about 3/4 of the conversation. You listen to is what Mr. Lauer, who just got fired, told you.
You mentioned something earlier about that you take, I think you said digestive enzymes
Yes.
on a daily basis, and then is it hydrochloric acid?
Hydrochloric acid is a pill you can buy in about any health food store. You should be able to. Taking that with every meal is a great start. There are many, many, many digestive enzymes out there. And there are doctors that have, if you've got these kind of conditions, you can gear your body towards it. I use a product line that has 29 different digestives. And what I do is when a person's got all these symptoms, I email them that package They email it back, and then I go through the symptomatology and say, you got to take these digestive enzymes for 3 months, and then we redo your hair and see how you're feeling. Because my goal isn't to keep people on a lot of stuff forever. I want to get them healthy and just put the minimum amount in. If they don't live anywhere near an ocean, they got to get iodine. If they don't live anywhere near selenium or whatever, these are the real core things that go in. Try to get them to eat organically.
So a generic, is there such a thing as like what you consider to be a high quality generic digestive enzyme mix that you like?
Yeah, go to a health food store and ask them for digestive enzymes. There's quite a few of them out there.
Yep.
I mean, you can call me and I can show you what I got, but I don't have one shoe that fits all feet. I got a thing you can fill out where I can see where your tendencies and weaknesses are. But it doesn't matter what digestive enzyme I put you on if you are not making hydrochloric acid for whatever reason. If you don't have hydrochloric acid, you can't absorb B12. If you don't have B12, you can't make hydrochloric acid. There is a chicken or the egg. So if I have to put sublingual B12 under your tongue to bring the B12 up to get the intrinsic factor working better, to start making hydrochloric acid, well, that's what you got to do. But then you got to take hydrochloric acid because you are not making enough to get your stomach acidic enough to digest your food. Your food stays in your stomach too long. It rots instead of digests. It ferments and creates gases. And it expands the intestinal tract. It causes all this leaky gut stuff. Yes?
Celery juice first thing in the morning, is that?
Organic or not? Because celery is a sponge for Roundup. Yeah, that's the best source of organic sodium you got going.
Will it help with the hydrochloric acid first thing in the morning?
It doesn't have chloride in it, but it's got a lot of sodium.
Does it help with the acid in your stomach?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, give you chloride is okay. Iodine and chloride. If iodine is low, chloride will be low. So if you're not getting enough iodine, you're going to be losing your chloride or not making enough. If you bring the iodine levels up, the chloride will always follow it. Calcium and magnesium. You take magnesium to absorb calcium, but if you throw barium into the equation, barium goes up, magnesium drops right down, so does calcium. It's just inversely proported. It's just amazing what barium does to the calcium magnesium level. It ruins it, and it drags all the selenium out of your body to try to neutralize the barium. Yes?
Why doesn't boron push aluminum out? I mean, normally who's on top wins.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Thank you for having me.